Hello, this is Ken. I got saved back in 1982, and the pastor I was under, I was actually studying all his materials. I ran his tape ministry. I did the soundboards in the back of the church. I did all the little adjustments. I was very, very young in the Lord, and I didn't know anything about anything. And I studied all his prophecy materials and everything, and he taught that the future tribulation period was 7 years. There's a teaching going around today that by some respectable people that 3.5 years of the tribulation has already occurred in times past, and that the future tribulation period is 3.5 years. They're not saying that the church is going into the trib. They're saying that that's what remains. And when I was discipled, the sentiment of the people that taught me was different than that. They believed that the future tribulation period is 7 years. And what I like to do today is try to present to you a baby food, simple way of looking at this thing. And I've received a lot of materials by email and on Facebook and charts and studies, and I look at it and it's just some deep stuff, and it's just almost a little bit overwhelming, and I don't buy into it. I was discipled personally that the tribulation period to come was 7 years, and that was the sentiment of the people at that time. Well, after this church, I kind of got involved with the Sword of the Lord, and I ordered books from the Sword of the Lord. I read all their materials, anything I could get my hands on, and the sentiment of them was also that the future tribulation period is 7 years. And then I got involved with Dr. Charles Stanley in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was never a member of their church. I'd actually gotten into the military at this time, and I ordered every tape I could get from him. And he was highly endorsed by my grandmother, and my grandmother was a Bible believer, and she really liked his materials, and so I got involved with him, and I was like, I like this stuff too. And I got audio. Back then he had audio cassettes. I was going through his cassettes. I was buying his books, and he taught that the tribulation period was also the future tribulation period to come is 7 years. And then after that, I got involved with more different pastors, and I was getting basically tapes from all across the country and booklets, and I would go to Christian bookstores, and the sentiment of everybody that I was around was the future tribulation period was 7 years. And then I got involved with the Pensacola Bible Institute. I started, a pastor had introduced me to Dr. Ruckman's materials there, and I went to the bookstore, and I was like a kid in a toy shop, and I bought everything I could get my hands on. And I went through Dr. Ruckman's, many of his commentaries, and many of his cassette albums. I studied through many books of the Bible with Dr. Ruckman before I even went to the Bible Institute. I was still in the military, bouncing around the country, and I had his materials with me. And I studied a lot of his stuff, and Dr. Ruckman also taught that it was 7-year tribulation period in the future. I went to the Pensacola Bible Institute. I graduated there, and then I also went back and audited classes in the book of Revelation. Dr. Ruckman taught in the Bible Institute the book of Revelation verse by verse by verse. And I went through it. I got passing grade, and then I went back and took it again. I audited, and really enjoyed his classes. They were really good. And Dr. Ruckman taught it was 7 years. So pretty much for me, the sentiment of all the people that I have studied under was the future tribulation period is 7 years. That's the basic sentiment. And what I've done, I've come up with a simple way for me to talk to new converts and people about when they ask me, is it the future tribulation period 7 years? I say yes, it is. And they want to know why. Well, I can't stand here and tell you a long drawn out thing that they can't comprehend. I need something instant, something quick. I don't want to mess around. I want to give them something simple and instant that they can digest and have something to stand on that they can pass on to somebody else. For me, I'm really, if you know me personally, you know that I am not a deep individual. I'm really not. I need things simple. As Dr. Ruckman used to say, just put it across the plate waist high. What that means is like in baseball, when the pitcher throws the ball, it's easier to hit if you put it right across the home plate, waist high, you know, and that's the way I need him for myself. What I have here is a diagram of the Old Testament tabernacle, and I have this available online, and if anybody wants this document, I'll be glad to email it to you, or just go to my Facebook page. It's on my Facebook page, and basically this is like the Old Testament tabernacle right over here, and the outside of the tabernacle, if you do a computation on the walls and everything, it comes up to about 1,500 cubits. If you're like measuring it out using the lengths and the widths and the height, it comes up, if you add it all up, it comes up to 1,500, which is also when the law was given, 1,500 BC. And then this is the holy place right here. If you add up all the dimensions of the holy place, it comes up to 2,000 cubits, which is the church age. And then inside the most holy is this room right here is where they kept the Ark of the Covenant. And if you was to measure that out, 10 by 10 by 10, if you multiply it out and everything, it comes up to 1,000 cubits. And what you got there basically is this is the church age, and this is the millennial reign of Jesus Christ. Church age is approximately 2,000 years, and the millennial kingdom is 1,000 years. But between the church age and the millennial is the tribulation period, and it's represented right there by the inner veil. Well, the structure behind that inner veil is 4 pillars. Okay, it's 4 pillars. If you'd like to see more studies on this inner veil, we actually have a video online in the same location as this video, and it's a study about the judgment seat of Christ above the inner veil. You can just look for that, and it has a very good introduction to the judgment seat of Christ above the inner veil. Above the inner veil, there's like taches. Taches are used to attach these two major pieces together, and you have like gold taches. Think of like taches on a briefcase, attaché case that holds the lid down. These are like the gold taches here, and these are like the brass taches here. You got at the very top, you got badger skins, and you got ram skins dyed red. Then you got goat hair, and then you got fine linen. And these major connection pieces are connected by gold here and brass here. And the gold pictures deity, and the brass pictures judgment. And these are right above the inner veil. Well, here's what I do. The inner veil has like 4 pillars right there. There's 4 pillars. And when I explain to somebody about the tribulation period, I use this diagram. It's real easy to draw on paper. I'm a paper drawer person. I like to draw charts out and write on napkins and things like that. And what I do is I use my fingers. I use the fingers to represent the inner veil. Like there's 4 major pillars. 1, 2, 3, 4. You see 4 pillars, but there's actually 7 components. If you look at my fingers, my hairy fingers there. If you look at my hairy fingers, you notice that there's like actually 7 components. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the spaces between those pillars, I count them as well, and it comes up to 7. So it's built right into the inner veil. If you go above the inner veil, then you're at the judgment seat of Christ. Right in front of the veil is the altar of incense. It represents the current prayers of the church. They burn that incense. It was like prayers that go upwards to God. And then you got the inner veil, and then you got the 4 pillars. And so I use those 4 pillars to represent 7 components, because you got spaces between the pillars. Let's count it off again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See, that is so simple that a child can understand that. And for me, I need it baby food simple. Okay, I can't. If it's deep, then it's real hard to communicate to people. Okay, and they're going to look at you. You know, they're going to start having doubts about what you're teaching. And so we try to keep it as simple as we can. And so we teach at the future tribulation period, because of that veil, inner veil having 4 pillars. We teach it because of that, the future tribulation period to come is 7 years. Now again, some of the people that teach that it's 3.5 years are respectable people. They believe that the tribulation is 7 years, but 3.5 years have already expired behind us, and there's 3.5 years to come in the future. And based on what we see with that interval, we don't buy into that at all. So anyway, hope this presentation on the 7-year tribulation period to come has been a blessing to you. Thank you very much for watching.